pharmaceutical drug market is worth over $300 billion annually, and for the most part, it's controlled by its 10 largest companies. But there are also smaller drug companies that compete in the market. While their staff and financial resources are much more limited, their products can be just as effective for patients. Tom Swegle is CEO of one of these small drug companies, MedCara Pharmaceutical. MedCara is located in Conrad, Iowa, a small community north of Marshalltown. Primarily owned by Tom, T.J. Johnsrud, and Brian Wegman, MedCara analyzes custom compounds being formulated and prescribed by doctors, looking for ones that could be marketed to a larger population. Compounds chosen are reformulated and optimized for national distribution.
Not all drugs are going to be helpful to a particular patient, so that's where we kind of come in, and so we can kind of customize that drug, maybe change the percentage, maybe change the application. It may be in a pill form, and we can put it into a more of a topical type of treatment, so how it's delivered, that type of thing. And then MedCara would take a look at the intellectual property. Is there ability to get a patent on this? Is there ability to take this through the FDA for eventual commercialization? Or is there ability to market this to the physician base that then would create a compounding product?
One compound that Tom and his partner selected dates all the way back to the 1960s when Dr. Donald Bolt formulated a diaper cream.
This was during my internship and residency. We just weren't happy with the products that were out there. They didn't work very well for diaper rashes, for one thing, certain other dry skin applications too. Nursing home applications where the person is constantly wet or incontinent.
Dr. Bolt brought that formula with him to Ackley, Iowa, where he set up a family practice and ran it for more than 30 years. The local pharmacy became very accustomed to making this compound.
I got to work in our pharmacy in Ackley, which is where Dr. Bolt practiced, and I remember seeing patients come in all the time getting this Dr. Bolt's diaper rash ointment, and we'd make it up in jugs, and then we would dispense it and individually to the patients, and they just loved it. And so that product then made its way into the long-term care nursing home arena as well, because it acted as a good skin barrier, and it just had a great story to it.
Soon, other area doctors were writing prescriptions for Dr. Bolt's compound.
We'd get prescriptions coming in from all the doctors that were in Dr. Bolt's clinic. Of course, they knew about it. They would go over to surrounding communities, and the doctors there knew about it because the word had spread. It had been around by the time I was involved. It had been around for some time already, but the word had spread, and it worked magic on babies that had terrible diaper rash.
Tom approached Dr. Bolt about commercializing his diaper rash ointment and selling it as a product that allowed its effectiveness to reach beyond the Ackley area.
We had the ability to commercialize this as an over-the-counter product because the FDA had already had a monograph for diaper rash cream. So we're using zinc oxide and lanolin, which are known substances that have already been approved to be sold over the counter.
Tom had his research department optimize Dr. Bolt's formula for over-the-counter use.
I think the original base was like a cold cream base, so we broke down that base to try to find something that, again, wasn't so sticky. It, it'd adhere to the skin, but it wouldn't be greasy. So we went through, various iterations of the formula. I think we had probably 6 or 7 different variations of that formula until we finally landed on what we thought was going to be the best.
With the formula optimized, Dr. Bolt's diaper cream could be offered over the counter nationwide.
The thing is, if we don't propagate it, then people from the future don't get to use that. And I think this is kind of exciting to be able to provide something that we learned in the past and has been developed over a period of time and has helped a lot of people so that people in the future can have this too. And I'm just happy that people can use them and they have something that's effective for them. So.
Tom turned his attention to the marketing and branding.
So we didn't want to lose sight of the history of this diaper rash cream because actually Dr. Bolt's been doing it for 30 years. So we've been saying we've been treating rears for 30 years. And so I wanted to give credit where credit was due and the likeness of Dr. Bolt, and we gave it a funny name called Heine Healer.
Tom's marketing efforts continue, currently distributing the product from coast to coast. Just like Heine Healer, another product of MedCara also began with a prescription. It was a treatment for warts that was different from any other product on the market. Unlike Heine Healer, this product was unique enough that Tom would be able to patent the formula, giving him exclusive rights.
When you're looking at eventually an exit strategy for a certain product, so for example, you want to have a licensing event with an investor or a licensing event with a small drug partner, they're not going to want to license something that isn't protected. So they're buying into the idea. They want to make sure that if they make that investment in that particular product, that they have an intellectual property surrounding that product, so it's a rock solid deal.
Tom worked with a patent attorney trying to secure intellectual rights, but found the process to be a struggle.
We first made our patent application, and then about 4 years after our first application, then we heard back from the Patent and Trademark Office, and they rejected our first patent for a couple of reasons. So then our patent attorney then took those rejections, and we were given the opportunity to counter why those rejections we did not feel were valid.
1 year later, Tom and his staff received the first of 3 patents on wart peel. Unlike Heine Healer, wart peel needed FDA approval in order to be marketed over the counter.
It is just extremely significant. The funding and trying to get us a new product, innovative product for a small company through the FDA is darn near impossible for a small company. You need a partner, a big pharma partner of some sort to help you through that process.
The hill is pretty hard to climb because you don't necessarily have the regulatory staff, you don't necessarily have the clinical staff that at your resource. So for example, then we would have to go out and through a consulting network hire some of that talent pool because we don't have those specific staff members within the MedCara staff. So it takes time and it takes money. And it takes a lot of patience too. So while we're very confident in our product, you never know what might happen in an FDA regulated trial. So even though we feel that this product is safe and it's got good efficacy, we have to then eventually prove that through that FDA trial process.
Tom estimates the cost of taking a product through the FDA approval process to cost upwards of $30 to $40 million. While this is the eventual goal, MedCara must move forward, marketing its current products as well as researching new products for the future.
We have your typical, what they call pipeline of ideas, pipeline of products. A lot of them fall in the topical application status, whether it be pain medication or treating something topically. We are working with a number of physicians right now on some various ideas. And sometimes we'll go back to the graveyard and, we didn't think about something at the time, so we'll go back to the formulation or the bench notes and say, okay, that's where we were missing that unique piece.
At some point, most entrepreneurs face the challenge of being a small company in a big industry. Typically, startups are not an overnight success. Tom and his partners have learned the importance of being patient and always moving forward. Inspiration comes in the most unusual places and sometimes at the most inconvenient time. Those who are truly inspired don't have to be pushed. Rather, their vision pulls them. And for entrepreneurs, inspiration can be the only thing moving them forward. This story takes us to Clive, Iowa, a city of 15,000 people. Clive is a suburban community on the western side of Des Moines. The area is comprised of homes on large lots and commercial developments. Residents enjoy great amenities like Greenbelt Park that runs through much of the city and access to great health care. Clive is also home to our next Iowa entrepreneur story, Table 128, an American bistro. Owners Lynn and Sarah Pritchard have a love for food and entertainment. For Lynn, this is something he learned growing up in his mother's kitchen, where some of his fondest memories were formed.
I grew up in a very food-centric home. Every meal was laid out by Mom. It was consumed ravenously because we were farmers, you know. My mother was an extraordinary cook and baker. So I think that there was just kind of that expectation that there would be food on the table, that it would be lovingly prepared and cared for.
Lynn Pritchard grew up on an Illinois farm, the youngest of 3 children. He had 2 sisters that were 13 years older. Once his sisters were out of the house, Lynn spent plenty of time in the kitchen with his mother.
You know, kind of my entry into this business was bittersweet long before I actually physically started working in restaurants. My mother passed away when I was 13, almost 14. My father, loved him to death, but just about the worst possible cook you could imagine. So it was either learn how to cook or suffer through my father's fried bologna sandwiches. So I opted to learn to cook. And fortunately, I had kind of spent a fair bit of time in the kitchen with my mom growing up. So I think that kind of gave me a little bit of an idea of what to do, and I think that there was, you know, some osmosis and, you know, understanding by transference there.
At first, putting a meal on the table was just a physiological requirement. It eventually grew into a way for Lynn to keep his mother's spirit alive.
I think when my mother passed away, it was more, we have to eat out of necessity instead of this is part of our family culture, this is, you know, part of who and what we are. So I think as I progressed a little bit more in the kitchen and, you know, we're kind of bringing part of that culture back. But again, I was surrounded by aunts and uncles who all shared in that food culture of breaking bread at the table. My godparents were wonderful influences in that respect as well. So I think all of those people kind of shaped me into, you know, kind of forming this philosophy around food that it was more than just a physiological requirement.
Nearing the completion of high school, Lynn faced the difficult decision of staying on the family farm or blaze his own trail in the culinary industry. He turned to his father for advice.
You know, I think every farmer wants, you know, his kids to go into the business, but I think hindsight being what it was, he just wanted me to do what I wanted to do and what, you know, gleaned some fulfillment for myself. And he is wonderfully supportive, just always said, chase your dreams, do what makes you happy, and kind of the rest is going to happen the way it happens.
So Lynn started cooking. He worked his way up from a local roadside grill to the Culinary Institute of America in Hyde Park, New York. Like any chef, Lynn had dreams of opening a restaurant that would represent his own style. Lynn eventually landed back in the Midwest, where he met and married Sarah. Taking several different jobs, Lynn became increasingly frustrated with the restaurant industry and decided to get out of food service altogether.
I left the food service industry and went into the logistics and distribution arm of it, swearing that I would never be back on the restaurant management or ownership side. And it, like a siren song, it just kind of kept calling us back, or at least me. My wife kind of got sucked into it.
We were having a conversation and he said to me that he he wants to be in a kitchen. This is what he really wants to do, and distribution just isn't for him. And I just said, then that's what we need to do. Life is way too short to spend it doing something that you don't love. And from that point forward, we didn't really know what it looked like, but we knew that he was going to stay in restaurant operations.
The first restaurant venture for Lynn and Sarah was a partnership with another couple at a place called Tartine. Less than 2 years into it, Lynn and Sarah agreed to buy out their partners and become sole owners. This shift in ownership was the perfect opportunity to renovate and rebrand. Lynn's vision of food-centric family restaurant was about to become a reality.
Service, please.
We really wanted something that just felt like the two of us, and not that the us is the whole collective by any stretch of the imagination, but we wanted a restaurant, a dining room, and a kitchen that felt like our dining room at home. So the menu needed to be all my food. The dining room needed to be reflective of Sarah's and my personalities. It needed to have a certain degree of style, but still be comfortable for everybody to come in. There's one thing that I really loathe and detest about quote-unquote fine dining, is that there is this sense of pretense or austerity that, oh, I can't be comfortable in, or I can't, put my elbows on the table. I want to wipe those ideas off the table, because every bit I want everybody to come in and feel comfortable, put their elbows up, sit around for a long time and enjoy breaking bread together. I think that's part of our core competency and philosophy, is we want that comfort level in the dining room.
Just 5 months after taking full ownership, Sarah and Lynn prepared a new business plan that included an 11-day transformation of Tartine into Table 128.
It was really scary. We had a plan. We worked the plan. It was stressful to create the plan, and it was stressful to work the plan. But we knew what we needed to do to make this happen, and it was a double down situation for us, where we needed to invest a little more money, which amounted to our life savings, and we knew that we were probably not going to be able to draw a salary for a year, and we did not. And you just make financial decisions off of that, where we knew that we needed to make this work in 12 months, and if we didn't, I needed to go find another job so we could live out the rest of the lease and make this work the best that we could.
Fittingly, the renovation was scheduled to begin on Mother's Day.
So we finished brunch that day and boxed everything up in here, wrapped everything in cellophane, moved it all to storage so that we could begin demolition and construction that evening. It was thrilling and exciting and fun on Monday to send the email to our email news subscribers saying that this is what's coming. We've changed, we're going to rebrand, and we're opening in 2 weeks. The media picked up on that immediately. Des Moines has a strong foodie community and a good food following, and so the word was sort of out on the street, which meant pressure was on. What are they going to do?
Well, we had the business plan written. We had almost down to the hour exactly how the project had to be managed to execute on that flip. Color boards had been established, and contractor timelines were in, and literally 5 hours after we closed, contractors moved in and started moving walls and closing soffits off and changing HVAC equipment. It was a dramatic roller coaster, to say the least.
Sarah and Lynn were able to meet their aggressive deadline. They reopened the doors, and their restaurant was a success. But being a restaurateur takes more than just skills in the kitchen.
I kind of feel like a triage physician a lot of the times, because as soon as you hit that back door, things start to change. So you have to be able to easily manipulate your schedule and to a certain extent those around you to be able to get that checklist taken care of during the course of the day. 25 years ago, a chef was a gifted technician. Now that's a given. You have to be able to execute in the kitchen. It's all of the other ancillary pieces, the human resource management, the capital resource management, marketing, promotions. It's just this litany of other things that most people don't realize happen in a restaurant.
Running a business takes more than inspiration. It takes hard work and dedication. For Lynn and Sarah, it also takes faith in each other.
I'm incredibly proud of him, but I also think that we complement each other in so many ways that really makes our relationship, both as husband and wife and as business partners, so strong.
Much like my sense for being able to know what flavor combinations or textures will work well onto a plate, she has kind of that global sense of what will work really well in the business, not just in the dining room, but in the business. She's confident, she's smart, she's brilliant, and she's awesome to work with. I couldn't ask for more than that.
As a boy, Lynn's mother inspired him to care for people by cooking and by creating a warm environment for the family to spend time together. Now Lynn and Sarah provide that same experience to their guests. In a way, the restaurant is not only a representation of Lynn and Sarah's talents, but also a tribute to Lynn's mother.
There's hardly a day that goes by where I don't at least think about her in the kitchen or feel her presence when I'm trying to make a decision. She just had this innate sense of what to do. I remember one of my older sisters asking her a question once about, how much yeast do I use in this type of bread? And she said, I don't know, you just do. And it drives my cooks in the kitchen nuts when they ask me questions like that as well. Well, how long is this going to be in the oven until it's done? There has to be that sense of confidence and admittedly a little bit of arrogance about just being able to do what we do, to do it well and to do it right.